So imagine you're flying your Cessna 152 at 3,500 feet, and at some point you hear a bang or a boom in the airplane somewhere, and you're not quite sure where that's coming from. You look around, you don't see anything. What are you doing? I'm landing. That's what I'm doing. I'm landing ASAP. However, these couple of pilots did not. Fortunately, they didn't die. But let's review their incident here, their mechanical failure, right here on aerotel.com. Accident of the day, Cessna 152. We're going to learn what the boom was, and we're going to learn what we could do to prevent that. So, the story, here's the story. Let's read the synopsis. It's a little bit shorter. This one's a Cessna 152 on a cross-country flight. 2 pilots aboard, cruising along at about 3,500 feet. 10 or 15 miles out from the destination, both of them heard a loud boom. The airplane still flew fine, though. No shaking, nothing they could feel through the controls, so they just kept going and landed without any trouble. It wasn't until they looked the airplane over on the ground that they found a hole in the top of the right wing and a crack in the rear wing spar. When they looked closer, there was corrosion right where it broke. A broken spar on an aircraft wing, it's not good. So let's have a look at what part. Well, let's first look at what a Cessna 152 looks like. So here's a Cessna 152. They're a small 2-seater, 100 horsepower aircraft. And the part that broke is somewhere around here, or here, somewhere along this line. So let's get a better idea. So there's a spar up here. I'll show you another couple pictures. A spar is like the spine of the aircraft wing, and there's 2 of them. There's the main spar, and there's a rear spar that comes out right here and goes along all the way to the end. What that looks like here is these 2 hunks of aluminum. This is not a Cessna 152 wing, or it's actually not even a Cessna wing. However, they're constructed very similar. So this one has 2 spars. This would be the main one. This would be the rear one. A lot of airplanes are constructed pretty much the same. So what happened was there was a bit of corrosion on the wing, on the spar, and they don't say exactly where. Wait, they did say where it was, I believe. During the post-flight examination of the airplane, a hole was found in the top rear wing near the fuel cap. Okay, I missed that part. So the fuel cap is right about here, but on the top of the wing. So right about here. So the hole up in there. Anyways, we're getting into semantics. The main thing is that there was corrosion. Corrosion doesn't grow overnight. However, in this part of the wing, you can't actually see in it for an inspection because the fuel tank is in the way. You'd have to pull the fuel tank cover. In fact, I have a buddy that just bought a Cessna 152 project, and I advised him to take the wing cover off. Let's see if we can look at this video. I tried to get everything lined up so I didn't have to do any Googling, but here we are. Cessna 150, 152, they're the same, but there's more 150s and 152, so we search 150. Fuel cover. And if we're lucky, yes, we are lucky. So have a look at, well, that's a cover. Here's one. So inside the wing is the fuel tank. And this is butted up next to the front spar. The back is butted up next to the rear spar, and there's a cover that bolts on over the top. Now keep in mind that not all airplanes are built the same. I'm specifically speaking about the Cessna 150. And the way that they hold these tanks in is, now I'm hypothesizing because I don't know exactly if this is exactly what happened with this airplane, but there is a wood there is a wood block, a piece of wood. So there's a piece of wood. You can actually see it in this one. Again, this is also not a Cessna 150 wing. This sure looks like a Cessna wing. The tank in a Cessna 150 is actually square, unless maybe it's a long-range fuel tank, and then it's going to have something like this, where it's a bit bigger. However, see this little hunk of wood there? That's actual literal wood. And what does wood do? Wood absorbs moisture. And what does absorb moisture sitting next to aluminum do? It corrodes. So you end up getting corrosion around here. And that can cause well, in this case, it caused a crack right there. So, going back to Aerotel, how to keep it from happening. The rear spar is one of the main pieces holding the wing on. It carries the bending load when the wing is lifting the airplane. Corrosion is just the metal slowly turning to powder. And once enough of it is gone, the spar can't take the everyday loads anymore, so it cracks. The trouble is, corrosion hides down inside the structure where you'll never catch it on a walk around. So the fix is really about inspection. Getting inside the wing at annual and looking around the fuel caps and the low spots where moisture collects and taking any bubbling paint or staining seriously instead of painting over it. Yes, that happens. You'd rather find a soft bar with the airplane on jacks than hear it let go in cruise. So that's our first lesson, and it's a lesson in getting good annual inspections. With annual inspections, it's not always going to see everything. It depends on the mechanic, depends on the shop, it depends on what they're looking at and looking for. Unfortunately, things are missed sometimes. And in this case, the wing corrosion was missed inside that fuel bay, most likely. Again, I'm hypothesizing. Anyways, so let's go on to the second accident of the day. This one is a Cessna 170B. This one is also an accident caused by corrosion, mechanical failure. Let's have a look at what a 170B looks like. Not that one. There it is. So this is a 170B. This is not the accident airplane. And the issue we're talking about happened right here at the landing gear. Let's read the synopsis. So in Aerotel, we have the actual NTSB report as written here. This is an excerpt from that. You can go to the full report down here, open full NTSB report. But we're going to read the synopsis, which is just a plain English written in my voice here. Here's a Cessna 170B, a tail dragger, coming in for what was by every account a normal landing. 3 different security cameras caught it, and none of them showed anything rough. Right after the wheels were down, the main gear just folded up under the airplane and did a fair bit of damage to the gearbox area. Afterward, they went looking for what went wrong, and they found corrosion in the bulkhead that the landing gear attaches to. The metal there had gotten weak enough that a routine touchdown was all it took. So, gearbox in a car obviously goes in between the axle and the engine, changes the speed to the axle. In an airplane, when we talk about the gearbox, it's very little literal, the landing gear, and a box that holds it together. Not even kidding. Let's have a look at what that looks like. So this is a nice diagram that P-Punk has put together. They make airplane parts. Let's zoom in on that. So imagine this metal, and this is an exploded diagram. So crunch all this together until all these pieces are touching, just like this. Smash it all together. You have a bulkhead here. This is where the land, see this little slit right here? Let's zoom in. Zoomy, zoomy. Whoa, too many. This little slit right here, the landing gear comes in there, and then it attaches to here with the clamps that you see right here. So the slit goes through, clamps down. This is like a saddle. There's the shims that go in, and 2 clamps here on the back end, and a bolt that holds it in. So the corrosion, they said, was, let's go back to it, bulkhead structure. The bulkhead structure, so I mean this whole thing is a bulkhead structure. There's a rear bulkhead, a front bulkhead, and then all these reinforcement plates and whatnot. So somewhere in all this, it collapsed. So what do we learn from this? More corrosion, more mechanical failure. The gear leg on the airplane bolts into the bulkhead, a structural wall inside the belly. Showed you that. And that bulkhead has to soak up the load every time you land. Corrosion had eaten into it, so a part that was supposed to be strong just wasn't anymore, and a normal landing was enough to overload it. It's the same story as any corrosion problem. It happens slowly, out of sight, in the spots where water likely sits, so it comes down to looking, pulling the inspection panels around the gearbox, checking the low points in the belly where moisture pools. I don't really, like, that's not a full, yes, it's moisture, but you get all kinds of condensation and percolation. So when you have moisture sitting in an enclosed space that can't air out, it can cause corrosion in various areas. And not smoothing over a stain instead of investigating it. Catching a weak bulkhead on the ground is a lot cheaper than catching it on the rollout. So there you have it. So corrosion caused weakening on heavily loaded items. I have another name for that corrosion. We're just going to get into that in a minute. So both of these, annual inspection did not catch it, or 100 hours or whatever. The annual inspection did not catch it. They didn't look deep enough. Now inside that gear area, the gearbox area, there's inspection panels on the top here that you can pull off and have a look inside of there. So it's not that hard to have a look at if you're actually looking to look at everything there is to look at. This is just another company that repairs these gearboxes, mainly on tail dragger airplanes. They're in Fairbanks. Airframe Innovations. Anyways, this is another opening in the gearbox, and they're just pointing out fretting rivets areas here. Fretting means it's a rubbing together, there's looseness. They're showing a casting for the landing gear, the slit that comes through. There's a crack there. You can see the wear mark on it. More wear marks, more fretting. And so this is the gearbox area. Yeah, so that's a high load area. So any kind of cracking or anything is going to be an issue. So moving on, this is a report on corrosion, like a scientific-y report, but it was just going over corrosion, aluminum corrosion, revealing crack propagation and mechanical behavior of corroded aluminum alloys. So they're just showing like there's a corrosion pit, and then the cracks start propagating out of there. Nano crack propagation process. A lot of scientific-y stuff. I don't understand it, but what I do know is when you get corrosion, it can lead to a crack and weakening. There are 5 forms of aircraft corrosion, mainly in aluminum that we're talking about. So, dissimilar metal, that's like this. You've got one type of metal for the bolt, and then you have another type of metal, aluminum, for another piece, and the dissimilars, they don't like it. It becomes like this electrochemical corrosion, and it can lead to pretty bad corrosion. Then you have what we're dealing with, stress corrosion. Stress corrosion occurs in parts that are exposed to high loads, such as engine crankshaft or the landing gear. It is usually the result of superficial corrosion or scratches that are undetectable because of finding out about the corrosion is often tricky. Typical causes for stress corrosion on airplanes includes tapered bolts, press fit bushings, external loads applied on the components, cyclic loads, that means repeated loads, or even the manufacturing procedure itself. So you can see that's where fastener would be, and you get all these kind of corrosive cracks due to the weakening and whatnot. Intergranular corrosion is a big one. You know, like a soda cracker, how you've got like a saltine cracker, soda cracker, you have like layers in there. Well, the aluminum can do that in between the grains, and it starts like flaking off. It's pretty ugly corrosion. I want just what we would see when we're looking at it. There we go. That's a really nasty. So you see how it kind of wafers out there? Let's zoom that in. Yeah, that's really bad. This is probably, wow, this is some sort of a something or other. But anyways, yeah, it flakes off like that. So it gets inside. So look at the surface here. It looks great. And it's like a cancer. It can get inside. There's always some sort of tell, though, you can see on the outside. It starts off looking fairly crusty, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. So in some aircrafts, how they make these high stress parts, they do a heat treating. Moonies have a lot of this issue on their spars, spar caps and whatnot. They can do exactly this kind of thing here. So that pretty much covers today's accent that we talked about on aerotel.com. This is the app I made. NTSB Accent Research is one of the features of it. NTSB, I'll show you a little zoom out here of the whole. Whoa, that's too many. So that's what it looks like. If you go to aerotel.com, you can get the app on the App Store or the Google Play Store, or you can just look at it on the internet. At $5 a month, $50 a year, you get a tail number lookup. You can search ADs. It's got a little game, airplane matching game, multiple choice. That's pretty cool. NTSB accent history is what we're using. FAA registration, a 4-cell, a live radar, and services for like brokers or financial services and whatnot. Some links there. And then also we have the main part of the app, which is how to search specifications, spec sheets on different airplanes. So if we go to like Cessna 150, you've got all of the numbers, whatnot. So it goes into the depth, into the accuracy also of these numbers. So if you look down here, you have sources of where these numbers come from. Some are AI estimates, but you can download POHs and we get better numbers. So as time goes on, this app and these specifications will get more and more accurate as I upload more POH data. Anyways, enjoy your coffee, enjoy your morning.